The rain came down in cold, merciless sheets that night, hammering the cracked sidewalk outside the Golden Skillet Diner as if the sky itself was furious at the world. Inside, 26-year-old Maya Coleman wiped down the counter for the 100th time, her feet aching inside worn-out sneakers, her mind spinning with numbers that never seemed to add up. She had exactly $11 in her pocket, a rent notice folded in her apron, and a manager who had warned her that morning that one more mistake would cost her the only job keeping her and her 6-year-old daughter off the street. What Maya did not know was that in the next 60 seconds, a single act of kindness toward a stranger in the rain would set into motion a chain of events that would either save her life, or destroy it completely. Before we dive deeper into Maya's story, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that one small act of compassion can change everything, hit that like button, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this video with someone who needs a little hope today, and make sure you're subscribed to Kindness Corner so you never miss a story like this one. Now, let's get back to Maya. The diner was nearly empty that night, just a trucker nursing his third coffee and an old jukebox humming a tune nobody was listening to. Maya glanced at the clock, 10 more minutes until closing, when she saw him through the fogged-up window. An elderly man, hunched and frail, was making his way down the sidewalk with nothing but a thin, soaked overcoat and a wooden cane that trembled with every step he took. No umbrella. No hat. Just an old man, alone, battling a storm that seemed determined to knock him down. Maya's chest tightened. She had learned the hard way that the world rarely stopped for anyone, that kindness often went unnoticed and unrewarded, but something about the way that man moved, slow, dignified, and utterly alone, reminded her of her own grandfather, the man who had raised her before cancer took him 3 years ago. Without a second thought, Maya grabbed the big black umbrella from behind the counter, the one her manager kept for emergencies, and rushed out into the storm. Rain soaked through her uniform in seconds as she reached the old man's side and gently took his arm. He flinched at first, startled, his tired eyes searching her face with confusion and something like disbelief, as though he had forgotten what it felt like for a stranger to care. Maya simply smiled, told him she wasn't about to let him walk through this storm alone, and asked where he was headed. He pointed a shaking finger toward a small apartment building 2 blocks down, and together, step by careful step, they made their way through the flooded streets, her arm firmly linked with his, the umbrella shielding him from the worst of the rain while she took the brunt of it herself. By the time they reached his doorstep, Maya was drenched to the bone, her shoes squelching with every step, but the old man's coat was dry beneath the umbrella she had held over him the entire way. He thanked her, his voice trembling with something deeper than gratitude, and asked for her name. She told him, Maya, and mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that she worked at the Golden Skillet Diner just up the street. He nodded slowly, memorizing the words, and disappeared into the warmth of his building without another word. Maya walked back to the diner alone, cold and shivering, but for the first time in weeks, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, a quiet sense of purpose, the feeling that maybe, just maybe, doing the right thing still mattered even when nobody was watching. She had no idea that someone had, in fact, been watching. Her manager, a sharp-tongued woman named Denise who ran the diner like a ship about to sink, had seen the whole thing through the window and was furious. Leaving the counter unattended during a storm, giving away diner property, abandoning her post minutes before closing, in Denise's eyes, it was the final straw. The next morning, Maya arrived for her shift only to be pulled into the cramped back office, where Denise slid a termination form across the desk without even looking her in the eye. Maya's stomach dropped. She thought of her daughter, of the rent notice folded in her apron, of the countless job applications she had already sent out with no response. She opened her mouth to explain, to beg if she had to, but before a single word could leave her lips, the bell above the diner's front door jingled sharply. Every head in the diner turned. Standing in the doorway, leaning on his cane but standing taller than he had the night before, was the old man from the rain. Only now, dressed in a pressed gray suit with a gold watch glinting on his wrist, he looked like an entirely different person, because he was. His name, as the stunned diner staff would soon learn, was Harold Whitfield, and he wasn't just some lonely old man wandering the streets in a storm. He was the retired founder of one of the largest restaurant supply companies in the state, a man who had quietly built an empire from nothing, and, as fate would have it, the primary landlord and financial backer of the very building the Golden Skillet Diner operated out of. He walked straight past the stunned customers, straight past Denise's frozen expression, and stopped in front of Maya, asking her, with a warm and steady voice, whether everything was all right. Denise stammered out an explanation, suddenly far less confident than she had been moments earlier, insisting that Maya had abandoned her post and broken diner policy. Harold listened patiently, then calmly explained that the young woman standing before them had walked 2 blocks through a violent storm, without hesitation and without expecting anything in return, simply to make sure a stranger made it home safely. He said that in 81 years of life, he had met very few people with a heart like hers, and that any establishment willing to punish kindness instead of rewarding it did not deserve someone like Maya working for them at all. The diner fell completely silent. Denise, pale and speechless, quietly tore up the termination form on the spot, suddenly remembering just how much the diner depended on its landlord's goodwill. But Harold wasn't finished. He told Maya that he had spent the entire night thinking about her, about the kind of person who would sacrifice her own comfort for a total stranger, and he had a proposition for her, a real job, managing guest relations at one of his properties, with better pay, real benefits, and a future she could actually build a life on for herself and her daughter. Maya stood frozen, tears welling in her eyes, overwhelmed by a moment she never could have imagined just 12 hours earlier. One small act of kindness in the pouring rain had not only saved a stranger from the storm, it had saved her. If this story touched your heart even a little bit, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who could use a reminder that kindness always finds its way back to us. And before we go, we'd love for you to comment the words, "Kindness matters," if you believe, like Maya, that even the smallest act of compassion can change a life forever. Thank you for watching Kindness Corner, and remember, in a world where you can be anything, choose to be kind.